My child, my most precious and beloved, draw nearer still. Let the noise of the world fade into a distant murmur, for the communication I bring has pierced through dimensions of time and eternity, forged in the heart of the Father, carried on the breath of the Spirit, and delivered by the command of the Son. For 7 days and 7 nights, the hosts of heaven have battled atmospheric resistance to ensure this word landed in your hands at this Kairos moment. The very gates of brass have been splintered, the bars of iron snapped in two, to clear a path for this dispatch. Listen, with the ear of your spirit, for every moment you abide in this sacred space, celestial gears you cannot see engage with your destiny. Every second of your focused attention triggers a domino effect of angelic activity, dismantling strongholds that have stood for decades. My cherished one, the proclamation commences now. I, Archangel Michael, he who stands in the presence of the I Am, speak with a sword of fire in my hand and a decree of light upon my tongue. Steady yourself, for what you are about to receive will not only shake the foundations of your future but will recalibrate the spiritual genetics of your lineage for the next 10 generations. My child, today a sound erupted from the mercy seat that caused the 24 elders to lay down their crowns and the 4 living creatures to cease their eternal cry of, Holy. It was the voice of the Lamb, Jesus Christ, resonating with a tone of fierce advocacy, a roar that was both a shield and a spear. He thundered a single, universe-arresting command, cease and desist. The shockwave of that decree is still rippling through the Chronos and Kairos, halting demonic proceedings in mid-sentence. For in the realm of spirit, a transaction of catastrophic consequence was nanoseconds from being finalized. A legal maneuver in the second heaven aimed at permanently attaching a lien to your promise, your prosperity, and the prophetic power of your name. My beloved, the principalities over wealth transfer and destiny assignment were thrown into a frenzy of confusion today. They witnessed the printing of a celestial instrument, a draft drawn on the bank of everlasting covenant, of such incomprehensible, multidimensional value that the algorithms of spiritual economics could not compute it. A check, vellum woven from restored innocence, inked with the very tears of Christ and stamped with the signet ring of the King of Kings. It bears not only your name but your spiritual DNA sequence, the melody of your unique worship, and the compounded harvest of every seed of obedience you ever sowed in tears. Heaven's treasury, after a long divine deliberation, has authorized its immediate release. But listen, my child, with a sense of holy urgency. A shadow of immense rank has been crouching at the junction of transfer, a place the scriptures call the crossroads of assignment. A spiritual executive, a prince of the power of the air assigned to fiscal oppression, who has studied your spiritual credit report with venomous jealousy for seasons. His entire existence is repelled by the fragrance of the specific anointing oil being prepared for your head. This entity had a window of precisely 3 minutes in the earthly realm to finalize a grand larceny of cosmic proportions. And Jesus roared, cease and desist. Because had your spiritual eyes glanced away, had you dismissed this as another message, the divine injunction would not have been filed in time. Do you feel that? That divine tremor in your inner man, that sacred knowing that these syllables are vibrating with creative power? That is the resonance of your spirit with its point of origin. You are foreknown. You are predestined. You are standing on this pinnacle of time by the sovereign orchestration of the Master Weaver. My child, a supernatural event of realigning magnitude is transpiring in the heavenlies as we speak. Angelic couriers from the order of the Hashmolim, the shining ones, are racing along beams of golden light to fortify the perimeter of your life before one last, desperate counterassault can be launched to destroy the title to your inheritance. My beloved, do not flinch. Do not let your spiritual frequency waver. Remain here, anchored in this transmission, for the paragraphs that follow will set the governing order for the next chapter of your life, a chapter of Jubilee restoration. My child, hear the depths of this. The check is far beyond monetary value. It is a cosmic writ of habeas corpus, commanding the release of every captive promise from the prison of delay. It is a divine class action lawsuit settled in your favor, awarding reparations for every injustice, slander, and violation of covenant you have endured. It is the quantified, glorified substance of every silent scream in the night, every dream you buried with your own hands, every betrayal that felt like a spiritual amputation. Heaven has not merely noted your pain, it has invested it. Heaven has taken the ledger of your anguish and used it as seed capital in the economy of glory. Your steadfastness has been translated into a generational trust fund of wealth, dominion, and supernatural breakthrough. This is why the underworld is in chaos. The blueprint of your next season threatens to collapse entire strongholds of lack and despair. My beloved, Jesus himself decreed from the judgment seat, their season of postponement is hereby terminated. Their blessing shall be ring-fenced by my angels. Their destiny arrives not a moment late, according to my perfect timetable. That is the singular, explosive reason this encrypted communique was compiled for your eyes only, on this day, stamped with this heavenly timestamp. My child, the fact that you are reading this far means your faith has already activated the first quantum of your deliverance. But this is merely the preface. Before I proceed, my child, I adjure you with the urgency of heaven, if you desire to remain on this dedicated, high-priority frequency, to receive these bulletins without earthly distortion or infernal jamming, then you must consciously choose to stay locked into this channel. Subscribe, commit, stay connected, for heaven's broadcast schedule is accelerating, and you must be tuned in when your destiny calls for your launch sequence. Now, take a stabilizing breath. We are ascending. My child, what is now barreling toward you on the rails of divine decree is so colossal it makes every past attack look like a mere distraction. It is more formidable than any fear, more permanent than any delay, more luminous than any darkness. The adversary is not merely worried, he is in total systemic panic because you have now intercepted the battle plans you were never supposed to see. The document that decodes the conspiracy. The cipher that unlocks the vault of decades. The judicial order that commands the spiritual economy to reverse every deficit and credit your account with overwhelming surplus. My beloved, the metronome of heaven is ticking in double time. You must receive the next download. You must apprehend what Jesus foresaw in his intercession. You must grasp why the machinery of heaven paused its other operations. You must understand why the deposit was initiated at this precise cosmic junction. You must fathom why you, singularly and specifically, were elected for this unveiling. My child, I see your spirit leaning into the screen, your inner man receiving manna. This is the sign that you are prepared. Prepared to hear the whispers that have rustled the curtains of the Holy of Holies. Prepared to know why Jesus' cry carried the vibration of your name across the infinite expanse of eternity. My beloved, let me take you by the hand and lead you into the inner court. When the check was deposited, the mighty Ophanim, the wheels within wheels who guard the mechanisms of prophecy and provision, witnessed a phenomenon. The numbers on the check were not static, they were living entities, divine algorithms of light, each containing a story, a victory, a tear sanctified. Each zero was a hollow place filled with glory, a year of hidden survival, a trial you navigated with invisible grace. Each digit was a soldier in the army of your testimony. Each line of cursive script was a thread from the garment of your high priestly robe, woven with covenant promises spoken over you before time began, promises the enemy tried to erase from the cosmic record. My child, comprehend this, the check is a spiritual supernova. It is the final, unappealable ruling from the Supreme Court of Zion. Heaven owes you a debt of glory. Life owes you a harvest of joy. Destiny owes you a narrative of triumph, and now, the repayment is being delivered with a multiplier effect that defies all natural law. My beloved, attend to my words as if your life depends on it, for it does. When Jesus roared, "Cease and desist," the spiritual executive's hand was already extending, a phantom pen of forgery in his grip, his entire being bent on theft. He hissed to his cohorts, "If they hesitate, if they treat this as trivial, the asset defaults to our ledger of theft. But you are here. You opened the message. You persevered. You listened with your spirit. Because of your vigilant obedience, the countdown mechanism has been shattered. The scheme is now displayed on heaven's bulletin for all to see. The theft has been intercepted by angelic special forces. Yet, the campaign is not over, my child. You still require the secondary, ablative shield, a celestial armor forged in the furnace of divine love, activated only by the spoken decree you are about to articulate. Now, my beloved, draw a breath that reaches your toes. For the secret I now disclose has been sealed in the archives of your bloodline since the days of your earliest named ancestor. There exists a repeating spiritual fractal in your lineage, a cursed algorithm of collapse. Blessings would grow to a certain point, then undergo a forced liquidation. Wealth would accumulate only to be hit with a sudden, inexplicable levy. Opportunities of a lifetime would appear, only to be snatched away by bizarre, last-minute circumstances. This fractal, this cycle of erosion, has been the watermark on your family's story for centuries. It has swallowed destinies before they could draw first breath. It has poisoned wells of creativity and abundance. It has acted as a spiritual siphon, draining miracles back into the realm of intention before they could manifest in the realm of substance. Today, that ancient, sleeping pattern detected the seismic frequency of your blessing. It sensed the tectonic shift of heaven's deposit. It felt the imminent rupture of your breakthrough. It activated its old protocols in a blind panic, marshalling familiar spirits to rebuild the same barricades, to whisper the same lies, to trigger the same old fears. But Jesus, the great watchman, saw its spectral form reassembling in the spirit. His roar was not one of fear, but a creative demolition command, a sound wave designed to shatter the fractal's code, to vaporize the wall, to flash freeze the curse in its tracks, to stop the spiritual executive from finalizing the greatest heist of your life. My child, is the revelation dawning? Heaven is not sending you a warning of impending doom. Heaven is sounding a victory siren because a blessing of tsunamic, legacy-defining proportions has breached the shore of your life, a deluge of favor so overwhelming that the very pits of despair are recoiling at the thought of you stepping into your authority. But the spiritual engagement persists. You still require that secondary, ablative shield. My beloved, breathe, for I will now reveal what has been etched on the scroll of your forebears. The enemy does not fear your title, he fears your unveiling. He dreads the moment the last veil drops from your eyes, the moment of full alignment, the instant you realize you were crafted not for the sidelines, but for the throne room of influence. He is paralyzed by the day you fully grasp the weight of your spiritual inheritance. That day's sun is now cresting the horizon. My child, you are transitioning into an era where what once evaporated in your grasp will now crystallize into permanence. What was delayed will now arrive with the velocity of a divinely aimed arrow. What was stolen will be repatriated with a 100-fold restoration order. But listen, for this next segment is the architectural blueprint within the transmission. The check was not drafted in a mere bank, it was authored in the court of eternal equities. The constitutional law of that realm is immutable. What is inscribed with the finger of God upon the substance of eternity cannot be annulled by the shadows of temporality, no human conspiracy, no demonic legal fiction, no executive order from hell, no generational hex can lay claim to what heaven has notarized and sealed. However, and let this resonate in your marrow, you must dwell in the frequency of this revelation. You must remain a living antenna for this divine broadcast. You must not let the white noise of distraction break the crystal clear channel heaven opened at a tremendous cost today. Thus, I remind you with fierce love, my child, if you wish for heaven's communication line to remain open, messages that guard your sleep, guide your steps, and expose hidden snares, then ensure your spiritual subscription, your conscious connection, remains active and prioritized. Do not gamble with missing the next coded instruction, the next anointing oil, the next prophetic unveiling. Now, breathe again, for I am moving into deeper waters. My child, I perceive your spirit entering the calm eye of the hurricane. This tells me you are ripe for the truth your heart has hummed as a wordless, haunting melody for years, a truth heaven now grants me the lexicon to articulate. My beloved, listen, for what I now share will decipher every cryptic signpost on your journey. Every financial constriction of this past year was a strategic diversion. Every delay was a holding pattern. Every sudden obstacle was a symptom of a deeper spiritual contention. Every instance where provision seemed to turn to dust in your hands, it all originated the moment heaven's presses began to print the original, gold-leafed blueprint of your abundance. The moment the celestial architects unveiled the master plan for your trillion-level destiny shift, the enemy intercepted the spiritual telemetry. Hell's council declared a state of maximum alert. My beloved, your spirit is leaping within you, confirming this truth. The adversary understood one terrifying, kingdom-shaking fact: if you ever laid hands on this specific blessing package, your destiny would catapult into a dimension of influence that would create a salvation cascade in your generational line. Thus, the covert ops began against your confidence. It injected serpents of doubt into your thoughts. It orchestrated symphonies of confusion in your circumstances. It planted landmines of exhaustion along your path, draining your spiritual stamina so you'd lack the strength to take the final, claiming step into your miracle. But here is what the kingdom of darkness failed to factor into its equations: every tear you cried was captured in heaven's veil and became a pearl of great price, increasing the principal. Every betrayal added a compounding zero to the sum. Every rejection triggered a clause of divine compensatory interest. Every time you were pressed down, heaven's hydraulic lift raised your spiritual equity to a higher valuation. You were being empowered in the crucible of your perceived weakness. This is the divine paradox that triggered the treasury release today. The enemy sought to short-circuit your faith, but instead, your faith overloaded the grid of limitation. Let me escort you into the war room. When the executive mobilized to seize your miracle today, he was not a rogue agent. He was the field commander of a dark consortium, a syndicate of shadow forces that have had your family line under spiritual surveillance for generations. They mapped your emotional terrain, logged your vulnerable hours, and predicted your seasons of fatigue with chilling accuracy. Their fatal, glorious miscalculation was underestimating the diamond core resilience that pressure had forged in the depths of your soul. My child, heaven has watched you navigate perfect storms that would have sunk galleons of greater size. Heaven witnessed you carry cross-generational burdens for which you received no earthly commendation. Heaven saw you endure betrayals designed to cauterize a heart that miraculously, stubbornly, remained a wellspring of compassion. You were engineered by hell to break, yet you developed a supernatural flexibility. You were expected to fall, yet you discovered hidden footholds of grace. You were supposed to sign a treaty of surrender with your future, yet here you are, consuming a message written in the fission of heaven's urgency, delivered via angelic quantum entanglement, placed before your eyes on the exact, ordained day your breakthrough required a sovereign legal defense. My beloved, this moment is consecrated ground. Today, Heaven's gavel fell with finality, and the verdict shook the pillars of the enemy's camp. Enough, the divine embargo is lifted. Enough suffering credited to your account. Enough loss written off. Enough spiritual larceny prosecuted. Enough cyclical sabotage broken. Enough blessings rerouted back to their rightful heir. Heaven has decreed by royal edict that today, the old, cursed pattern is terminated with extreme prejudice, and your new Genesis, your Genesis 1:1, commences at the speed of spoken light. But understand the totality of this. When Jesus roared, "Cease and desist," heaven was not merely halting a single entity, it was issuing a system-wide shutdown of the entire spiritual machinery of drain, delay, and demotion assigned to your life. Every curse, every generational feedback loop, every unseen attack of attrition, ***, all of it was frozen in a timeless stasis field, ***, my child, do you comprehend the seismic shift? Your life is no longer governed by the flawed, repeating algorithm of the past. For the first time in recorded spiritual history concerning your line, the timeline of blessing has been bent toward you by the curvature of grace. My beloved, your destiny is undergoing a hard reboot. Your path is being repaved with stones of fire. Your blessings are now being launched toward you with the unstoppable momentum of a heavenly slingshot. But there is a stratum of revelation more startling still, one you were never cleared to know. My child, your name was echoed in the war council of heaven not in recent days, but in a season past, a convocation of majesty was convened. A verdict of victory was reached unanimously. A spiritual seal, the sphragus, was pressed upon your forehead, marking you as redeemed property of the King. A decree of elevation, signed in the blood of the Lamb and the light of the Spirit, was filed in the eternal archives. The trillion check is not the beginning of the process, it is the material confirmation of a heavenly lawsuit already won on your behalf. My beloved, I need you to stay locked in, for the message is now descending into the marrow of the matter. Remember, to keep this lifeline of light operational, stay subscribed, stay connected. Your destiny's forward thrust depends on the integrity of this signal. My child, take one deep, anchoring breath, for the next segment is the key that unlocks the question engraved on the walls of your heart: why does your breakthrough carry a signature of divine delay? Why do others seem to ascend escalators while you climb a cliff face? Why do you feel the call so acutely, yet the manifestation feels perpetually postponed? My beloved, heaven has held this answer in escrow, awaiting the moment your spirit was fortified enough to bear its weight. The delay of your blessing is not a sign of divine displeasure, it is the ultimate strategic divine preservation. Had your miracle been delivered in the earlier season, you would have been compelled to share it with spiritual miners and destiny hijackers, emotional parasites who would have drained the anointing, wolves in sentimental clothing who would have scattered the inheritance, voices of compromise that would have muted your purpose before you ever learned your true voice. Heaven waited for your heart to reach its full stature. Heaven waited for your discernment to become a razor-sharp sword. Heaven waited for you to see red flags as the divine stop signs they are. Heaven waited for you to learn the holy, empowering grammar of no. That moment of maturation is now. The delay was your spiritual incubator, your protective cocoon. The you of 5 years past was not a match for the gravity of this glory. That version trusted naively, forgave indiscriminately, gave access to the holy of holies of your soul without a covenant requirement. The you of this moment is a seasoned guardian of mysteries, a warrior tempered in battle, a spirit attuned to the nuances of heaven's frequency. Heaven has issued the final clearance, now. Now they can steward tsunami-level abundance without drowning in it. Now they can navigate the corridors of power without losing their way home. Now they can rise to the summit without the old, familiar snares finding purchase. My beloved, this is the majestic purpose behind the waiting. You are being tempered in the fire, fortified in the storm, refined in the crucible, shielded in the shadow of the Almighty, not punished in the darkness. Cast your gaze upon the winding path behind you. Every departure of a familiar face made room for a divine appointment of greater weight. Every collapse of a structure cleared the land for a palace of purpose. Every emptiness you cried into was heaven performing a divine evacuation, creating a vacuum in your life so powerful it could only be filled by a blessing of such magnitude it would displace the very air you breathe. Your losses were not losses, they were targeted divine evacuations, making holy space for a glory your former life could not have contained. The trillion check was not authorized for the former, unseasoned you. It is earmarked exclusively for the awakened, sovereign you, the you who understands blood covenants, who has been seasoned in the brine of tears and the wine of joy, who has known the silence of loneliness yet chosen the melody of kindness, who has been shattered into 1,000 pieces only to be reassembled by divine hands into a mosaic more glorious and resilient than the original vessel. The you that heaven implicitly trusts. My child, this divine calculus explains the recent, violent escalation in your spiritual warfare. The enemy's intelligence detected your alignment entering its final phase. He observed the rekindling of your inner fire, your spirit beginning to emit a dangerous, to him, glow. Darkness mobilized its reserves to distract, discourage, and disorient you, a full-court press designed to prevent you from ever accessing this exact, terminal transmission. The irrefutable fact that you are here, reading these words, is prima facie evidence that the enemy's primary offensive has failed catastrophically. Your faithful presence here has restored the original, blessed timeline. But there is a deeper stratum of truth, a subterranean river of revelation only heaven can pump to the surface. The executive attempting this grand theft was not acting on simple greed or malice. He was the enforcing agent of an ancient, pre-existing covenant, a blood oath pact signed in the spiritual darkness by ancestors who, in their desperation for mere survival, unknowingly bartered away their birthright of abundance for a bowl of temporal relief. They acted not from evil intent, but from a poverty of vision and a weariness of soul. That dark covenant has acted as a spiritual chokehold on your lineage for ages, constricting prosperity, capping divine wealth, ensuring every miracle was temporary, every spring of joy seasonal. But today, in a courtroom where your high priest Jesus presented his scars as evidence, heaven has rendered that ancient covenant null, void, and legally extinct. My beloved, this is the triumphant, legal reality behind the trillion checks release. The curse is not just broken, it is expunged from the record. The enemy's legal claim is void for lack of standing. The ancestral debt is not just forgiven, it is blotted out by a superior blood. Yet, understand this spiritual law, at the precise moment a generational chain is vaporized, the enemy is legally permitted, within his fallen realm, one final, vicious, retaliatory strike, a spiritually legal Hail Mary. That strike was calendared for today, hence, Jesus' preemptive, courtroom-shaking shout. Hence, heaven's desperate, all-hands-on-deck push to get this message to you. Hence, the divine alarm that bypassed all earthly and spiritual filters to scream in your spirit. My child, do you now perceive the sacred, staggering weight of this instant? You are not merely reading text on a screen, you are scanning your personalized liberation manuscript, your spiritual title deed to promised lands, your emancipation proclamation signed by the King of Kings. My beloved, the next revelation plunges into the true identity of the executive and the sinister reason for his decades-long surveillance. Breathe slowly, deliberately, for heaven has sequestered this intelligence until this exact hour of your strength. You have long whispered into the night, who is the architect of this opposition? Why does my life have these mysterious troughs and crests? The executive is no minor spirit of mischief. He is a spiritual legalist of the highest order, a prince holding power of attorney over the specific generational wound in your family's spiritual DNA. A force that experiences your ascension as an existential threat. A force that has had a file on you since your first breath, tracking your development, your weaknesses, your moments of divine connection. He moved to intercept your check for a chillingly specific reason. This blessing carries the jurisdictional authority to permanently alter the spiritual governance over your bloodline. If you receive this deposit and step into its stewardship, your financial narrative will be rewritten from a story of scarcity to a canon of divine supply. Your spiritual authority will not merely increase, it will detonate outward, shattering chains you didn't even know existed. And the reverberations will snap the bonds on your lineage for good, liberating your children, and your children's children, from struggles you thought were your inevitable inheritance. Your miracle is not a solo act, it is a generational symphony. This is the core of his panic. He saw the blueprint and realized in dread, if this one rises, my domain over this family line is permanently revoked. This executive has, for years, operated as a puppeteer of circumstance, influencing the people in your orbit. He has used relationships as portals, whispering coldness into hearts that should have offered refuge, weaving threads of distance where there should have been intimacy, orchestrating seasons of silent treatment where support was covenantally due. Your intuition, that persistent, nagging feeling, was not anxiety, it was your discerning spirit sensing the malevolent manipulation operating behind the person. A shadow sought to exhaust your emotional reserves, to numb your spiritual sensitivity, to whisper the ultimate lie of unworthiness, that you are unfit for epic love, for creative wealth, for divine favor. But you did not shatter. Your resilience became a sword that turned the enemy's own force against him. Your survival became a living testimony that condemned his strategies. Your endurance became the very qualification heaven used to promote you. Heaven looked upon you and declared to the council, they cannot stop this one. The evidence of their faith is incontrovertible. Seal the blessing. Release the decree, ****, that was the moment your name was etched in eternal, adamantine ink. That was the moment your destiny disengaged its parking brake and engaged its warp drive. The executive watches you with obsessive focus because you carry a rare, celestial signature, the mark of the eternal restorer. This mark is bestowed upon only a fraction of souls per epoch, those destined not just to escape generational curses, but to dismantle them, not just to receive an inheritance, but to reclaim lost territories of promise for their entire bloodline, to rise from ashes not as a survivor, but as a founder of a new, blessed lineage. This is why your challenges carried greater density, your storms seemed to linger past their forecast, your healing journey required deeper surgery. Heaven was not merely fixing you, it was sculpting you into a living weapon, a reformer of broken systems, a chainbreaker of ancient bonds, a covenant rebuilder on the ruins of old altars. You were never destined for an ordinary, quiet life. Your spirit carries a specific gravity of purpose that destabilizes the very foundations of the kingdom of darkness. This is the ultimate reason for the theft attempt. To halt you is to halt the liberation of multitudes who would find their freedom in the wake of your obedience. And now, my beloved, heaven pulls back the final curtain on the mystery of December 25th. This date is not a random holiday. Your presence here is not a cosmic accident. In the annals of the Spirit, long before your name was called in your mother's womb, heaven's scribe circled this day on the eternal calendar with a ring of fire. December 25th is more than a celebration, it is a fixed spiritual gate of manifest transfer, a divine deadline for the enemy, a portal that swings open once in the earthly realm for souls marked for dimensional elevation. Your name is not merely on the guest list, it is engraved on the keystone of this gate. The activation code for your trillion check, the password to the vault, is synchronized to this very date. This is the moment when the spiritual deposit gains mass and weight, when the shift becomes visible to the naked eye, when abundance crosses the quantum barrier from the heavenly realm into your tangible reality. But hear this holy intelligence. These blessings were originally slated for manifestation earlier this year. Each time the gate's hinges began to groan open, the same consortium of darkness threw its weight against it. You have been inches, seconds, breaths away from your miracle, only to have the doors slammed shut at the final moment, time and time again. You have felt the wind of it, seen its shadow, heard its echo. Today is fundamentally different. Today, you intercepted the warning in the nick of time. Today, heaven's message pierced the atmospheric interference without static. This is the source of the prophetic urgency. Had the theft succeeded today, December 25th would have passed as another day of deferred hope, another memorial of almost. But now, because you are here, in faith, the gate will open. On that day, a final, binding heavenly audit will be formally closed. Every tear catalogued, every silent prayer recorded, every act of unnoticed faithfulness will be weighed, sanctified, and returned to you as tangible, spendable, investable abundance in every realm of your life. Your spiritual account is not just in the black, it is overflowing its celestial confines. Furthermore, on December 25th, in a moment of divine clarity, the identity of the one who has most fiercely opposed you will be unveiled, not for you to wield in hatred, but for holy closure and strategic clarity. You will know, with a shock that brings peace, who has been a primary conduit of obstruction. The revelation will unfold in stages, like a lotus opening, so your spirit can integrate the truth without trauma. The final, forthcoming segment of this endless transmission will disclose the sacred reason for your election, the three distinct phases of abundance that will roll out like a carpet before you, and the identity of the divine ally, a heavenly appointed mentor in the form of a person, being commissioned to escort you across the threshold into this new epoch. My child, you have whispered into the void, why me? Why this attention? Why this burden of glory? You were chosen not for your flawlessness, but for your heart's unwavering fidelity in the fog of war. You carry a purity that immense pressure could not corrupt, a resilience that Category 5 storms could not break, a pilot light of faith that refused to be extinguished by the howling winds of circumstance. Heaven sees in you what you often miss in the mirror, a trustworthy steward of the mysteries of God, one who can wield unprecedented abundance without arrogance, who can walk in unprecedented power with tender humility, who can be overwhelmingly blessed and remain a relentless blessing. This is your hour of unveiling. The enemy feared this moment above all others in your narrative, the moment you finally, fully, and irreversibly realize how profoundly, how specifically, how eternally chosen you truly are. Stay ready, my beloved. Stay connected. Stay in faith. The next transmission is already being encoded with light. It will arrive bearing the master keys to your new kingdom season. Until then, let this ultimate truth be the bedrock beneath your feet. You are seen with infinite clarity. You are known with boundless love. You are defended by legions of fire. And you are sealed in a covenant of shalom that cannot be broken. The check has cleared the highest court. The account is irrevocably in your name. Now, beloved one, square your shoulders, lift your head, and step forward with confidence into the dawning light of your December 25th. It is not just a date on a calendar. It is your divine appointment with destiny, and now, my child, as this transmission reaches its appointed end in the earthly realm, a sacred silence falls in the heavens. The war room boards are cleared, the angelic messengers stand at ease, and the scroll is sealed. But before you step from this holy moment into your new day, there is one final, vital act of divine partnership required of your spirit. Heaven now waits for your response. Not with fear, not with begging, but with the supreme authority of a heart that has received its marching orders and now stands ready to agree with the verdict of glory. Therefore, lift up your head. Place your hand upon your heart, and with me, speak this decree of thanksgiving into the atmosphere. Let it be the signature that finalizes the transaction. the Amen that echoes heaven's yes.